quorum to be determined.
Thank you, President Deere. We'll start with our Treasurer, Director Alvarez,
Here.
our Secretary, Director Gray,
Here.
our immediate past President, Director Williams,
Here.
our Vice President, Director Houston,
Here.
and our President, Director Deere.
Here.
All right, we have a full attendance of the board.
Our newly appointed Assistant General Manager, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Take a stand, place your right hand over your heart and begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Is there any public comment?
We don't have any public comments registered, but let me ask if we have anyone on the virtual platform to identify themselves by raising your hand if you'd like to make a public comment. Currently, I see no hands raised, but we'll give a moment to see if anyone would like to make a comment. And seeing no hands raised, we do not have any public comments, President Deere.
Thank you. Are there any presentations?
We have no presentations agendized for today's meeting.
Any items too late to be agendized?
Our council says no.
We're now on the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar in its entirety?
Also move it. I have a request to withdraw or to pull two items from the consent calendar,
Sure, are they
7A and 7H.
7A and 7H? All right, so the motion is approve the balance of consent calendar, with the exception of 7A and 7H. There's a second to that motion.
So move. Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Okay, Director Alvarez.
I will be voting yes on the consent calendar with the exception of item 7I, where I would like to register a no vote.
Director Deere,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
and Director Gray.
Yeah.
The motion carries with the one no for the one item.
One no for 7I. Director Albright. We'll go on now to 7A. Your motion approved.
I pulled this item, so I just want to address the content of the minutes. I think needs to be attention to.
Where are you referring to?
In particular, the minutes of our special board meeting on September 2nd. When you look at the action calendar, under item 5A, it says election of Metropolitan Water District Chair. And it doesn't describe what we did. It does record the votes. And what we specifically did is we approved a letter to Metropolitan Water District requesting the consideration of a change in the bylaws to allow for a third term for our MWD board representative and board president and MWD board president, Director Gray. And that I thought would be something that we was pointing out. I mean, that was the action taken. You read this and I go, needs something to be done. So I think that the board for board meeting minutes should reflect a little bit better the actions actually taken.
And I do remember that component of the discussion, and I agree with you. That certainly should be indicated here. Maybe the timing of that conversation, which occurred towards the end of the meeting.
Well, that was under direct comments on thanking each other, et cetera, but the actual item, if somebody wants to read, what did the board actually do? very hard to
Interpret.
deduce that from that. And I think I've made these comments before. In general, our board meeting minutes leave something to be desired in terms of the comments that were made and the actual decisions. I think in this case, we should reflect that. With that, that would be approved.
Second?
A question or comment?
Are you seconding also?
Yeah, I'll second it, yes.
Okay, go ahead, make your.
Yeah, I think we need to have an explanation as to what the minutes are for and what is actually not, I mean, the actual minute recording and not what some folks want to see as a big, long dissertation on what happened at the meeting. But our minutes are not for that. So could you please speak to that? Can you have, Mr. Chair, can you have the council
Yes.
speak to that?
Sure. Minutes are intended to reflect the actions taken by the body. And I see Director Alvarez's point in that there was as phrased, it's not very specific as to what that action was. So I think one way to remedy this would be perhaps to, if Director Alvarez wants to amend his motion to state that these minutes be amended to include language that the action of the board as on item 5A, the action of the board was to approve a letter supporting Director Gray for a third term as Metropolitan Chair and the required amendment of those Metropolitan bylaws.
What's the intention of my motion?
So the motion is to approve amended minutes with an amendment to that effect.
And I will,
Second that.
my second goes with that.
If I could just point out, if you look at item 5B under that same set of minutes, it actually talks about a little brief description, and that should have followed under 5A. Similar.
Let's call a motion.
Okay, Director Alvarez,
Aye.
Director Houston,
Yes.
Director Gear,
Yes.
Director Williams, and Director Gray. Do we still have Director Gray?
Yes.
Director Gray?
Right.
So we'll record that as 4 and an abstention.
Okay, we're on item 7H.
Item 7A, I don't need a staff report. I do have a question for clarification. I'm not quite sure what this is for. When I read the staff report, it basically says that Woodland Current is being retained to support the GLAC Irwin Leadership Committee in preparing applications for funding. So are we part of a group that's funding Woodland Current, or are we independently hiring Woodland Current?
The first, not the second. And so my understanding, and we don't,
Maybe you can explain this a little bit further.
okay, I'm going to ask my Assistant General Manager to provide the explanation.
Yes, Director Alvarez, as you probably are aware, West Basin Municipal Water District has long served as the fiduciary administrator for the Greater LA County Integrated Regional Water Management. As such, we manage most of their contracts. However, we defer all of the actionable items to the Greater LA County Leadership Committee. So they make the decisions and then we help implement that. And then, of course, the county even oversees those consultants. In this case, they did go through a selection process for a consultant that will help prepare this next round of integrated regional water management funding for the Greater LA County area. The project proponents would be paying a portion of the fees that would be charged by this consultant. So everybody that gets awarded through this process actually pays a portion of the consultant fees as part of your the expense of getting those grants. In this case, West Basin Municipal Water District is currently being considered by the Leadership Committee to include two projects within the greater LA County area. We have a portion, it's $1.3 million for the Harbor South Bay project, which would be the Mills Park and North Gardena laterals. That would help buy that portion down. It would be funded by the U.S. Army Corps. And then we are also part of a larger partnership with the Las Virgenes Municipal Water District, where we're seeking, I believe, $630,000 for a conservation program that would be implemented up in the northern portion of our service area. So potentially, if our two projects were to move forward in that next round, we would need to pay a portion of the consulting fees to get our projects included in there. And I want to check and make sure that I correctly stated all. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this, we will be the one that is administering the contract with Woodard and Kern. And so we're entering into a contract with them for $130,000. Not to exceed $130,000.
That is correct.
But they will be preparing applications for urban funding independently for different agencies, and each agency will then pay its share up to, will pay for two applications apparently, or potentially two if they are submitted.
That is correct.
So we'll be reimbursed, or is that, or is this gonna be done on a task order basis? In other words, if only two urban applications get prepared and submitted, there's only a fraction of the $130,000, I'm assuming, can be used up. And then that's all going to be responsible.
Correct. Once they determine the project that'll be incorporated into the overall application, they'll divvy up the cost of the consultant expenses, and then all of those agencies that have a project included will be invoiced, and they will be paying monthly.
There's a microphone right above you.
Okay. I will look at your side when I talk.
That might not be necessary.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll move this item forward.
Second,
Second,
further discussion? Please call roll. Okay, Director Alvarez,
Yeah.
Director Houston,
Yes.
Director Deere. Yes. Director Williams,
yes.
Director Gray. Director Gray? Okay, so 4 with my abstention.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Yes.
Vote on item I, with H, so H.
Can you hear me? Hello?
We're taking a vote on item 7H.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, we have your vote as yes. So 5-0, the motion carries.
Go back and be part of the record for 7, 8.
If you're okay with doing so, Director Gray? Director Gray?
Yes.
To
Yes,
circle
sir.
back with you on item, hello?
Yes. Tell me that again.
Yes. Yes, we would like to register your vote for the approval of the minutes for item 7A. And there was a motion to amend the minutes, clarifying the action that was taken in favor of sending a letter on your behalf to Metropolitan to amend the bylaws to allow for your running for a third term as chair of the Met Board. And so that was the motion. How do you vote?
Yes. Yes. Thank you. On all three.
Thank you. So we have a 5-0 vote on item 7A. Thank you, Director Deere.
You will go on now to the action calendar, item A.
Okay, and so we have the first item, approval process for LAFCO with the special district voting member election. And I'm happy to introduce Margaret Moja to provide that report.
I will be pitch hitting in for Julie today since she's out of the office. The item that before you today is on page 160 of your board packet. It again is the approval process for LAFCO for a special district voting member election. Since 1994, special districts in the Los Angeles County have been represented by 2 members and 1 alternate to the Local Agency Formation Commission, otherwise known as LAFCO. Per our administrative code, section 2-1303A7, it states, with regard to the election of LAFCO directors and alternative directors, the president will act as instructed by the majority of the board. As such, this board item is to seek the board's direction to provide to the president to act on behalf of the district. So at this time, there is 1 unfilled position on the LAFCO board. We do have another one filled by our own Director Deere, who currently serves as one of those representatives. As shown on the bottom portion of the page, there are 4 names that have been submitted by the deadline of September 21st, 2022. Those names are Stephen Appleton, Robert Lewis, Sharon, still not going to be able to say her last name. I apologize to you, Sharon. Yvette Stevenson Rodriguez. Those 4 names are listed, and there is more information about them on pages 164 to 171 about their candidacy. And the actual election form is on page 163. With that, this submission by the president must be done so by 5 p.m. on Wednesday, November 30th. This was discussed at the Finance and Administration Committee, but was requested to bring to the full board for their board's discussion and recommendation. At the committee, it was asked to Director Deere who he would recommend. So I would turn it over to him to share his thoughts as it relates to the candidate to consider, and for the board to then provide comment for him to then act on behalf of the district. And with that, I'll read the recommendation, which is that the board authorize the board president to cast a vote for 1 candidate to a special district voting member of Los Angeles County Agency Formation Commission, LAFCO. And with that, I'll turn it over to Director Deere.
I had mentioned to the committee that I recommend Robert W. Lewis, a fellow water board director, who I've known for many years at conferences and so on. I've met him. Good rapport with him. He's the one I know best of the 4 candidates that are running. So I would recommend voting for him. Make a motion to approve that. Okay.
Question, you're gonna definitely vote for Mr. Lewis?
Yes, I am. Pass, unless the board directs you to do otherwise.
I was gonna suggest that we consider Director Yvette Stevenson Rodriguez from Rochdale Water District.
Okay. Other discussion? Motion is to instruct the president to vote for Robert Lewis. Please call the roll.
Director Albert,
No.
Director Houston,
Yes.
Director Deere,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Gray.
yes,
4-1 vote, the motion carries. On item
8B.
Okay, so this brings us to the resolution to reauthorize Brown Act provisions for virtual meetings, and I will hand it over to our general counsel to walk us through this particular item.
As you know, the district has been operating since, I believe it was September 2021 under 2021 under AB 361. And that is the provision that allows for relaxed Brown Act meetings. The Brown Act, pre-pandemic and still has provisions that allow for teleconferencing of meetings. And that requires that there are certain conditions. Number one, that the location of the remote participant has to be on the agenda. That agenda has to be posted at the remote location, and that remote location has to be open to the public. That would, and also a quorum of the body has to be meeting within the district's boundaries. That was pre-pandemic. That was, and that's still good law. AB 361 came around and it relaxed the provisions those provisions that I just cited. And that allows for the board to participate remotely, but there are 2 preconditions to that. One of them is that there is a declared state of emergency. And number 2 is that there is either state or local guidance concerning social distancing. If those 2 preconditions are met, and the body determines that meeting in public could result, or meeting in person could result in risk of transference of the virus, then there is, you're allowed to make that finding and have a meeting remotely for the next 30 days. So it's a 30-day window. As you know, you've been kind of adopting these every week, every month. A couple of things have happened since the last meeting. The governor has declared that he's going to withdraw the state of emergency effective February 2023. So after February 2023, that precondition for AB 361 meeting goes away. So in my view, after February 2023, AB 361 meetings will not be moving forward, and that's the consensus in my discussions with other public agency law attorneys. The twist in all this is that there's yet another piece of legislation that's just got adopted, Assembly Bill 2449 by Estela Rubio. And that allows for remote conferencing without the precondition of a state of emergency, but it has some rather significant restrictions on it. It can only be availed by a board member if there is either emergency circumstances or what's called just cause. And just cause is identified to mean a lot of things, including need for childcare, need for a medical appointment, things like that. There are limits on how that can take place. That I know I copied staff with those limitations, and if the board would like to see our summary, we can provide that as well. There is a limit on the number of times you can avail yourself to 2449. There are a number of issues that have to be addressed in terms of the ability for the public to participate. You need two-way teleconferencing or two-way telephone conferencing capabilities. And there's also some peculiar ones in there that if someone is participating remotely, they have to disclose who was at that location with them. So it's frankly looked at as kind of a cumbersome way to have remote meetings. The consensus seems to be that going back to the original Brown Act meetings is probably the cleanest and most flexible way to move forward after February 2023. But today, the state of emergency is still in place. My most recent visit to the LA County Health Department website was updated. Their order and guidance for employers was updated October 13, and they are still recommending and giving guidance on social distancing. So in my view, and after consulting with, frankly, Metropolitan's General Counsel and their staff, it appears that the preconditions for the AB 361 meetings are still in place. So if the board wants to make the finding that's found in today's resolution, if the board makes that finding and adopts that resolution, the teleconference meetings permission will be allowed for another 30 days. So there's a lot there, but if you have any questions, please ask.
Question, you mentioned that the county still advising that social distancing be maintained. Where is that being done? I mean, you go to the airport, there's no social distancing requirements anymore. There's no events, public events that I've been to where there's social distancing. And the only place that you're, and even then it's not uniform anymore, that you're requested to wear a mask is in medical office.
And detention facilities. Yeah, I can't speak to where. No, I can't speak to where it's actually being put into practice, but I can speak to what the regulation, what the order says. Because on the October 13th Health Department order, they relaxed some of the masking standards. And the question became, did that do away with the social distancing recommendation? So we revisited this and we looked at the recommendations that are still in place. And so they are still recommending that there be reduced congregating of employees, that break times be staggered, that they are encouraging outdoor eating and outdoor break times, that there be limited attendance at any gatherings, and that there be unidirectional foot traffic systems. As you remember, we all had arrows on the floors. That's still in place. So in terms of whether or not a local agency is still making the social distancing recommendation, we can safely conclude that they are. That's on their website as of October 13th. As it's being practiced, Director Alice, I can't speak to that. I was on a plane recently. I was one of 2 people wearing a mask on the plane. So,
Okay. Hey, Director Houston.
Well, thank you for all that. I just think, again, doing this, we keep doing it. You get this, I'm gonna support it. Matter of fact, even Metro now riding train buses, if I'm not mistaken, don't wear masks anymore. I don't think.
I think that was in the masking update.
So at this point, it's getting still ridiculous. We can't do this anymore, but we'll see as both goes. I'm not for.
Any other comments? Well, I'm going to support another month, right? That's all this motion does?
Yeah.
Basically, you lose the precondition. It looks like February 28th, 2023. That's unless the governor does something in between now and then.
We're going to vote it on a month-to-month basis, right?
Yes, it lasts for 30 days.
I still move.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Director Alvarez,
No,
Director Houston,
Nope.
Director Deer,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Gray.
What was the motion again, please?
One more month of the virtual meetings.
You said no more? Is that what you said?
One more month.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Motion. motion passes 3-2.
Item 8.
Yes,
C.
so we have item 8C, and I'm happy to introduce our Senior Operations Engineer, Susanna Lee, to discuss our purchase order for the 90 M10C microfiltration submodules. Susanna, please.
Thank you, Greg, and good afternoon, directors. This item was presented at the October 12 E&O committee. And there's a brief revision, slight modification from that memo. So I'll just give a brief recap on the memo and I'll go over what is revised. So what the intention for this action item is to purchase 90 M10C submodules, which are being used at the both satellite facilities. These MF membranes have been severely impacted during the 2021 Hyperion sewage spill event. And a number of them are in need of replacement to help bring the water quality back into meeting refinery requirements, contractual requirements. And so at the time of the committee, we presented that we'll be going forward purchasing 90 M10C for a total of $87,768.18. And at the same time, I also mentioned that we were negotiating with FilmTech of DuPont at that time to see if we can compress the delivery schedule. And at the completion of the E&O committee, they replied they were able to negotiate with OCWD, who they are currently manufacturing their MF modules, and push their schedule and put our submodules manufacturing process ahead of theirs for a month, so then they can deliver the membranes earlier than expected. So with that said, they will be able to deliver the membranes by the end of December rather than January or February timeframe. In addition, we are revising the shipping method, which in the original memo, it was by sea, and this is by air. So the increase of $4,250 is due to the shipping method, sea versus by air freight. So with that, I will read the recommendation. The recommendation is that the board authorizes the general manager to issue the purchase order for 90 microfiltration submodules from Vimtech corporation for not to exceed total amount of $92,018.18, including shipping and sales tax. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
The recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Move to second to approve the recommendation. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Director Alvarez,
Yes.
Director Houston,
Yes.
Director Gear,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Gray.
Abstain.
Okay, so the motion carries 4 with 1 abstention.
Item 8D.
Okay, item 8D is a really good news story. And this is concerning our regional conservation efforts. And so I have our Assistant General Manager here who is going to provide that good news story. So please, EJ.
Yes, thank you very much, Greg. President Deere, members of the board. This is important to note that we do have online Jennifer Vasquez, who is a water use efficiency specialist. She'll be available to answer any specific questions or anything that I might not be able to answer. But this item that's brought before you, beginning on packet page 185, was requested by the Public Information and Education Committee. At that committee, we let it be known that due to the excellent outreach activity related to West Basin's grassroots placement rebate program, we have seen a significant increase in the interest in that program. You might recall in fiscal year 22-23 budget, West Basin did include $100,000 dedicated towards that program. The reason for that was because we anticipated a successful request under the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation 2021 Water Smart grants that would be able to obtain funding from outside. We did receive that funding. We did include that within our Metropolitan Water District budget. However, due to the extreme applications and interest in the program, we are now considered to be 88% obligated. So of those funds, up to $250,000 earmarked for that, or roughly $220,000 obligated. In looking at the remainder of the fiscal year, West Basin did calculate that we receive anywhere from 20 to 25 applications per month. Again, that's a huge increase in the number of applications, and we average out at approximately 1,500 square feet per application. So the request for $300,000 to be pulled from West Basin's reserves and dedicated to that program is intended to get us through the fiscal year without having to return back. It's important to note that as the Metropolitan Water District administers these applications and the rebate program, if West Basin was to exceed their budget or meet their budget, they would simply begin processing the applications at the lower base rate of $2 per square foot. So if we want to prevent any gap in between those $2 and $3, we need to ensure that there's adequate funding within that program. For those reasons, staff is recommending that the board authorize the general manager to increase the grass replacement rebate program funding for fiscal year 2022-2023 by $300,000, with the increased program funds being paid through West Basin's reserves.
Is there a motion?
I have a comment and I'll make a
First of all, is there a motion? Okay, the move is to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have seconds. Director Alvarez, you have the floor.
I just wanted to acknowledge that this is a really good program. One of the emphasis in conserving water is outdoor water use and the conversion of turf areas and high water usage landscaping to low usage is very important. So this is something that we really need to keep focusing on in terms of doing our part to reduce the overall need for imported water. So I'm very happy to see this. And I have a question. Can we get a list of where and how many applications we're actually getting? Be interesting to know what parts of if it's throughout the district or if there's some areas of the district where we have more applications than others. And maybe you provided that in the past.
If they have.
Yes, Director Alvarez, if you turn the packet page, I don't want to go too far ahead, but packet page 377, and you look at the materials there all the way through packet page 379, we bring forward each month kind of a list of the applications that we're receiving through the fiscal year. It's really important to note that when I use the term obligated, if somebody were to apply for a grass replacement rebate, what they do is they obligate those funds, but they don't pay those funds until the grass is actually removed. And of course, the customer is able to follow through with that process that is established and maintained by Metropolitan Water District. So that wouldn't be the necessary spending of that money, but they do obligate that. So once you run out of funds, they are all obligated, and they would move that down to the $2 per square foot. What we saw in this case is that through the summer months, we received several applications. So we started tracking really high, actually in the last fiscal year, but those rebates were not actually paid until this fiscal year. So there is that lag time on the number of applications you get and how quickly they get that work done. So a large part of the issue that we're facing is that we had a stack of applications that have been submitted to Met, but then of course weren't actually followed through with until July, August, and September. So we saw that huge influx. But we always lag behind, so we're always prepared to fully fund all the applications.
Last year, we tried to put a focus and we gave an additional dollar for disadvantaged individuals. Have we tracked those separately?
Yes, we have. And if you look at packet page 376, we highlight, that's our grass replacement plus program. And we continue to track that. Again, we went out and were able to obtain a grant for that program as well. So in that case, West Basin is pretty much relying completely on the grant there. That's a Department of Water Resources Urban and Multi-Benefit Drought Relief Funding Grant Program, where we received $300,000.
But I see that here, but how many applicants that we got in the store, maybe this year?
So we completed 17 landscape design packages. Of these, the total of 11 rebate applications to date were submitted by the applicants.
We've only done 11 and then we designed 17. Is that? I didn't quite understand.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any discussion?
Did the pages that EJ referred to satisfy your
Yeah.
question about the location of all the applicants? Okay.
At the street address.
Close enough.
Let's call roll the motion.
Sure thing. Director Alvarez,
Yes.
Director Houston,
Yes.
Director Deere,
Here, I'll go here. Yes.
Director Williams.
Here, geez,
Did you say
you
here?
messed me up here. Yes.
Okay, and Director Gray.
Yes.
All right, so the motion carries unanimously.
Motion passed.
Oh, fantastic. So that concludes our action calendar. And I believe that takes us into item 9, the information calendar.
Anything there?
Nothing there for the information calendar, so that takes us to, I'm sorry, receive and file. My apologies.
All right, is there
So moved.
a motion to receive and file item 10? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, does anyone want to pull the item off the agenda? All right. Motion's been made. Second to receive and file item 10, 1 through 15. Please call the roll.
Director Alvarez,
Yes.
Director Houston,
Yes.
Director Deere,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Gray.
Yes.
All right, 5-0, motion carries.
At 11.
All right, so that brings us to our general manager's activity report. And so I'm happy to share a few items from my report, just as a quick highlight. Starting with our personnel appointment of Mr. Mitchell Morale, who we've recently hired into our operations department supporting our water quality compliance team. Mr. Morale comes from the city of Simi Valley, having experience as an environmental compliance inspector and super knowledgeable in wastewater permitting. And we are fortunate to have Mr. Morale on our team. And so I've had the pleasure of meeting with him, and really nice gentleman. And it says here that he also loves to play chess and enjoys reading. So
There you go.
because we have one of the best and brightest on our team, so that's a good thing. And I'm not going to read everything in my report here, but I do want to highlight our recent tour of the Pure Water Southern California demonstration plant. That is the demonstration of Metropolitan's work with the LA County Sanitation District. We have the opportunity to have our engineering and operations team and our finance and public information and education teams and water policy teams go through and get an opportunity to be familiarized with what Metropolitan is doing, with the intention of helping our staff envision what the future direction of the West Basin Recycled Water Program may look like. In addition to that, we had a deep dive workshop between the engineering and operations departments and the Metropolitan staff, the LA County Sanitation District staff, talking about the scope of their demonstration facility, the scope of the full-scale regional program, and some of the concepts that we are looking at in terms of our strategic direction for the West Basin integration, both with the Pure Water Program as well as the Hyperion 2035 program. Very lively workshop discussions, and just publicly want to thank John Bedarski and Bruce Chalmers and Matt Hacker and the entire team under Robert Ferrantes, General Manager of LA County Sanitation District, who opened up their shop and hosted us for that really nice tour. With that, moving a little bit closer to the back of my report, I do want to highlight that, I made the rounds on a few events, starting with this weekend's Water Harvest Festival, which it was my first time joining the district's festival, and it was fantastic. I recall vividly Director Williams saying in a number of occasions that staff puts on a great event, and you certainly were not overestimating that. It was a really fantastic event. Starting
One thing missing, the new manager should have been putting the
Duct tape.
deficiency noted.
You'll get it.
Yes, and so with that, I thought the VIP breakfast was a really great start to the day. And it was wonderful having our colleagues from the various agencies supporting us, and going from that event. And I thought the breakfast was pretty cool. I love that puff pastry that they had in there. So I'm going to say I like that breakfast. But having said that, we had a really nice, I think, photo opportunity with a lovely cake that was prepared. And unfortunately, we didn't have the pleasure of Director Deere's presence in that photo op and Director Gray's. But I thought that was a really wonderful occasion. And then just going out to the full event, engaging the public, having Director Williams and Director Houston there to address the audience. And then later on, the giveaway of the raffle prizes and all that the event had to offer was really well done. And I just have to say that the staff under Amy's leadership did yeoman's effort to set all of that up, working with the various vendors and all the different volunteers and all the different companies who sponsored and showcased all of their materials. It was really wonderful. I also visited our gallery with Margaret Moshe, hosting our historic items, and that was a really cool space with the TV screen. So it was really good. I mean, I can't say enough. I was with my wife there, and she thought it was a remarkable time as well. And you can't beat the habit burger.
What was the attendance?
Amy. All right.
It's a good event, you're right.
Yeah.
I criticized the breakfast somewhat, but everything else that I saw.
Yeah, and the music was great. We had a local band from El Segundo. Is Sonny from El Segundo?
I don't think he lives in El Segundo.
Okay.
I think
He plays locally around
around.
South Bay. Okay. Yeah, so it was a really great time. Moving right along from that, I also had the pleasure of joining the screening of the California Watershed Healing film. This is the film that Mr. Jim Thiebaud produced, 45-minute film highlighting the sensitivity of our California watersheds and the effects that an unhealthy watershed has, such as wildfires and kind of high water demand and a number of other effects that may come from, watersheds that aren't managed optimally. And so it was really impactful in the way that it was produced and the presentation. One key takeaway for me was just the idea that if we can better thin out our forestry, and so reduce the number of timber and trees that are in the forest itself, you reduce the demand on water, and you can really restore the health of our watershed, reduce the fire fuel, and allow for greater flow into the rivers and streams, and ultimately right into our water supply. And so it was really impactful. And that was followed by the presentation of the water replenishment districts, shorter film on the efforts to manage the local groundwater basins. So Central Basin, West Coast Basin, the partnership that's happening between WRD and LA County Sanitation District and the LA County Flood Control District. And of course, our agency as well, and all that they're doing to move the region from imported supply for recharge into the aquifers to now 100% locally sourced recycled water to do the same thing, to replenish our aquifers. And so they call that program the WIN program, Water Independence Now. And they've kind of now branded it to Win for All. And so they're looking to further increase the independence for all of the overlying communities to reduce their take of imported supply. Then we culminated the event with a panel discussion. So it was featuring General Manager from WRD, Stefan Tucker, Metropolitan Water District, Adele Hochkhalil, Water Resources Senior Engineer from LAWP, Rafael Villegas, and then of course myself representing West Basin. And so each of us had a short 10 minutes to present. And then we had a Q&A hosted by moderator, Director Rob Catherman. The venue was really nice. The Warner Grand Theater in San Pedro, very nicely decor, old school style. And I was just about to say the attendance, I want to say it was roughly about maybe 30, 40 people in that kind of ballpark. Maybe closer to the 30 side. And so it was, modest attendance. But I think the films were very impactful.
Do you have press coverage?
I did not notice the press there, Director Deere. Although we did have press coverage at Waterhart, so I think that was pretty cool. All right, so with that, I will conclude actually, no, I do have one other item I want to share with you. I received an invitation from the Governor's Office on Infrastructure, and they're hosting a roundtable discussion on Tuesday, tomorrow, and it's going to feature the infrastructure czar, Mr. Antonio Viragosa, California's infrastructure advisor. And so this will be at UCLA, and I conferred with our president of the board to see if it was appropriate for me to go or if it should be escalated to the board. And Director Deere said he defers to the general manager to attend the roundtable. So thank you for that, for allowing me that consideration, Director Deere. Okay, so that concludes my remarks, and you have a full text of my report in the package.
Sure. Comments?
A quick question on the movie screening or what have you. So how we will have access to see these two movies? We were not there.
I'll have to check with WRD and get back to the board on that. So let me do that.
And then I have to say, I personally was a little confused because I know that we sponsored this event, I think, last year.
Yes, we did.
Right. But we never really got affirmation from the board as to who was going, how, whatever. We got an Evite, I think, in the calendar or something. So, I don't know. After we sponsored it, what really happened or who decided what was going on. And so I think that was very disjointed. So it is what it is. I'm confused. I actually did go down there for a very short time. We had already started because I had to do like 3 different events that day. So I can only stay so long, the light's already out. I was watching the first 15 minutes and then kind of split. Again, I don't think the board was informed as to who was representing us or what was happening. And so I did see some pictures later from Metropolitan that the general managers were all the ones who were there, of course. So that worked out for us. We sponsored, but after that, I heard.
Anything else?
I heard,
Harold?
I heard, and got an invite to the event, and I chose not to go because I had a conflict. So, I mean, I think all of us received the same invite. So, I mean, the decision not to go to that, to go to something else is on you.
I'm
So I
talking
don't
about
see.
my decision. I'm talking about, I think part of the deal with the sponsorship was that panel and who's speaking. But we never heard anything further amongst ourselves as to how those decisions got made.
Okay.
Nor did we get a clear anything from that e-bike, just said this event's happening. Want to go or not? Yes or no? That's all we heard.
What else did you want to hear?
Well, I would love to, when we sponsor something, we usually have a little bit of a protocol as to what's going to happen with that sponsorship. That was a district sponsorship. It wasn't just one director.
Director Alvarez?
I didn't go, because I was tied up that day. I knew I was not going to be able to attend it when we discussed sponsoring. I had previous commitments on October 15th. But I thought it was worthwhile to sponsor it. We did get an email that all of us received on September 27th from Director Castleman. Typically thanking us for sponsoring the event and encouraging our attendance moving forward this year.
Should we go on to general counsel's report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I report that we do have some closed session items today as described on section 14 under Government Code section 54957, performance review of general manager. Under 54956.9, we have potential litigation and some real property negotiations concerning 3700 West 190th Street in Torrance, California, and 324 West El Segundo Boulevard in El Segundo, California. That concludes my attorney's report.
Let's go on to item 13, AB 123440. Let me just say for the record, it's nice to have you prepared a written report. I've attended all the scheduled committee meetings virtually this month. And I also went to the water harvest and had a meeting, a virtual meeting with the manager for some time, monthly meeting. And I think that pretty well covers all the activities I did for AB. Pretty routine month this for me. I was in the hospital for 5 weeks.
So you're here with us.
I'm here, at least physically, but mentally yet.
Well,
Would like to report, go ahead.
I'll go real quick. Thank you. Since my last board meeting, AB 1234, I'll just report, let's see, on the 3rd of October, I attended the Palos Verdes Peninsula Chamber of Commerce Legislative Forum, which after happened to be there. I met with some of our regional leaders. On the 4th of October, I presented to the El Segundo City Council, and thank you for General Manager Reed for being there as my two, should I need him, although I did not, thank you.
You did a fantastic job.
And last but not least, I have here from the 10th to the 12th of October, I attended WEFTEC conference in.
Any other reports?
Other than the normal stuff, I did conduct my first CRA trip after the pandemic shut down, and it was well attended, had folks on it from each division. So we have good representation. So
Very good.
looking forward to the next one, which will be next month, will be the state water project. So sign up. We have a different kind of a setup this time because of the pandemic protocol or the COVID protocol. Can only take about half as many people as before, and the trip is shared with Director LaFay of Torrance.
Thank you very much. There are no other reports. We will adjourn this meeting to a closed session.
Hello?
Yes, Gloria?
Yes, just wanted to report that I completed my AB 1234 form with any activities that I had. And I did also want to mention I have a CRA trip coming up. It's a shared trip with one of the directors. I think Director Williams talked about it. The format is different, so it's shared, but wanted to announce it. I don't know if any director is interested in going, but I did want to announce that. I think it's November 18th, 19th, and 20th. But if you're interested, I think the deadline was yesterday. So,
Yeah.
if you guys have been aware of it, but I just wanted to mention it again. Thank you.
Thank you. We will amend the record to include Director Gray's comments before we adjourn to the closed session. Go to the closed session.
Oh, is Maxine Waters a councilwoman?
It's Congress. It's in Congress. Congress.
I'll have a report out from the attorney on the closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The board met pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, discussed the performance review with the general manager. A review was discussed and no formal action was taken. The board also met pursuant to Government Code Section 54956 to discuss items of potential litigation. No formal action was taken. The board also met to discuss real property negotiations with staff concerning real property at the El Segundo, the Chevron refinery in El Segundo and the Torrance refinery in Torrance, California. No formal action was taken on those matters. Instruction was given to staff. That concludes my closed session report.
Our director's comments, future agenda items, we do want to put on a closed session for next meeting, next regular board meeting. We're in a discussion regarding the general manager. Any comments from my colleagues?
No, thank you.
The comment I have was that water harvest was excellent, and I just want to say thanks again to our staff. Glad to see so many people showed up, so good job. Yeah, thank you.
Ditto.
All right, we are adjourned.